How's it going, guys? So yesterday there were some class balance changes. Unfortunately I was sick, so this video is going to come out a little bit late, but I'm going to go over it with you guys right now and let you guys know what I think. So they're nerfing a lot of the mana costs for Resto Druid spells, which ends up, in my opinion, probably not being that relevant because they're offsetting it, that you'll see a little bit later on. This one you use a lot, this one you use a lot, this one you use basically never. This one you use basically never because you only use it when you have a proc because it's very expensive. And FLO, you basically don't really use that often unless you're playing the build for it, in which case minor buff. So I know this looks like kind of crazy, but it's not. Like you probably look at it and you're like, Resto Druid buffs, what the heck? But it shouldn't really matter, the offset. Holy Paladin damage buff, don't think that matters unless for some reason this works on Denounce. This is something that is getting talked about a lot, is like all of the Ret Pally damage abilities. So I think Wake of Ashes actually hits pretty hard. Honestly, I have no idea what Truce Wake is. This might be the thing that procs after Wake of Ashes, since it hits multiple times, so I'm not sure. No idea what this is. Blade of Justice, I think it's one of your fillers, and Final Verdict is one of your big burst abilities. So this does look like a good amount of damage. Let me see if I have a log of like fighting Vanguard somewhere. So Final Verdict is getting a 10% buff, max hit 180k. That would have been 198,000. Wake of Ashes, 10% buff is 20% buff, right? 20% is pretty big on this. Would have gave it an extra 2.8 mil, or sorry, 280,000. Max hit 156k. 20% of that is another 30k essentially. So it would have been upwards of 200,000, well, 186k, which would put it right around the same spot as like Final Verdict, which is pretty big. And then Truce Awake, it looks like damage increased by 28%. So this is getting also a buff. So the initial hit's going to get hit harder, and the dot's going to hit harder. I have no idea what Seething Flames is. So either they don't play it, or I'm missing it, or it's not going to be super relevant. Blade of Justice. So Blade of Justice, another decent spell. 20%. So these are actually pretty significant buffs. And you could actually see that in this specific game, the Ret actually did top damage. I'm not exactly sure if damage is what Ret is missing. Okay, well, it's a little bit padded here with Earthen Wall, but we'll see how this plays out. I actually think, looking at these changes, Rets are going to hit pretty hard. They might actually be fairly meta. Can definitely see maybe like Ret Outlaw being good. Maybe Ret with a caster. I mean, people were saying Ret Demo, maybe. It's possible. So these are very welcomed Holy Priest changes. I personally think that this will not move the needle on where the healer hierarchy is. I think Holy Priests are still going to be bad. We just live in a world where if you have to cast heals in order to keep people alive, eventually those heals are going to get micro CC'd and they're going to get interrupted, and you're going to fall apart. On top of that, I think that Holy Priest has a lot of mana issues right now. So the fact that they didn't address that makes these changes, helpful, but not exactly what Holy Priest needs. So Sanctify is the AoE one. I don't think that matters too much. Heal increased by 25%. Pretty decent if you play like the casted build. Flash heal by 15%. Very decent. Chastise damage, I'm not really sure. Smite damage, don't think that matters. Shadow Word Pain, it's okay. Shadow Priest buffs don't seem that crazy. I don't think this is going to be enough to make their damage ridiculous. But I do think with like the stam increase and the armor increase that Clothies are getting. Did I miss that? I don't think I showed it yet. Okay. It might give them time to kind of like wither their opponents away. I don't know how much this matters. It looks kind of minor. Shaman, this is actually kind of interesting. So I'm a little biased here. I don't think this is needed, but I also don't think it needs to be offset, but whatever. Lava Burst and Flame Shock dealing 20% more damage. I think Resto Shamans are actually going to frickin' pump. Like, I think that every single Resto Shaman in 3v3 is going to have to take the instant Lava Burst talent now. I think it's almost going to feel like Evoker-ish, where part of your win condition is dealing damage. So you know, you just have to kind of deal with it. So like, for example, like I think Lava Surge is going to be really important. You're kind of always going to play Mana Tide, I think, mainly in the Dampener games, but you might also end up playing Master of the Elements just because it's associated with Lava Burst, you know? Just do damage, randomly make your heals, heal for more, you know? But yeah, these spells are actually going to hit really hard. Lava Burst can already do over 100k, so being able to poop out, you know, 120k globals is, it's going to feel really nice. Not really a necessary PvP change. I do think that Shamans have a pretty decent offensive toolkit right now. It just feels like you fall really far behind when you try to use it. But what can you do? Lightning Bolt increase. I don't think Lightning Bolt's that crazy. I don't think you have the talent to take Stormkeeper, but I'm going to try it out regardless. Arms Warrior. None of this is applied to PvP combat. Protection, no one cares about. And then this is an interesting one, okay? This one kind of makes sense, all right? Besides the fact that mages, in my opinion, are too tanky and maybe like demo locks, and even then I could see this like going through for demo locks, but Claw Specialization gain more armor. I feel like Arcane Mages is probably one of the most immortal classes that I have seen. Maybe that's actually just because they play with the Resto Druids. Maybe it's not actually a mage thing, but I don't actually think that mages need this, so like the generalization seems a little weird. And then I'm not really sure why this is in here. Like I don't really understand why plate classes randomly are getting their armor reduced. I don't quite understand this one, especially considering, you know, I play a lot with like a Death Knight. I feel like Death Knights get absolutely destroyed by physical damage. BM Hunters, Windwalkers, you know, they crush Death Knights. So this seems really weird to me, all right? And then finally, we have more stamina going to DPS. I think this is probably a good change. I would say, like, I know it seems kind of crazy. It's so weird, like, how Arena works right now. But either games are insanely dampening, or I would say the average death is 50-ish% in a global. So, like, right here, you can see this death right here is 57% to dead in 1.5 seconds. Here we have a 50% in 2.6 seconds. Like, people can just die really, really fast. This is 56% in 1.3 seconds. So, I mean, I'm not really too surprised to see stamina actually get increased 40% in like 2.7. It's a little bit of a slow. This is 90% 2.7, but the last 49 was done at 1.5. So you see what I'm saying? Like, people can die really quickly. So I'm not really too surprised to see stamina increase. I'm kind of surprised to see it get increased again for healers. I don't actually really think that healers have the issue of getting 100 to 0'd. And then, who in their right mind thought this was a welcoming change? Like, this thing blows my mind. Like, I read this, and I just could not understand, like, why we're in the office and we're like, you know what? I think Roots and Fears should just not break to damage as frequently. Like, this just doesn't make any sense to me. This makes absolutely zero sense to me. Roots are super obnoxious. Fear is super obnoxious. Why do we want those breaking, like, less often? I don't understand. I don't even understand how this is a change that is even thought of in this meta, where people are dying 100 to 0. I don't get it. Unholy Decays, I would say these are pretty sizable nerfs. I could be wrong, but all of their damage, in my opinion, really comes from Festering Wounds with APOC and Doomburst, and Death Coil hitting really hard, so these seem really nice. But on top of that, they're losing some healing absorb power. Moonkin, so Clothies got their armor increased. Plate got their armor decreased. Moonkin forms got their armor decreased. I personally play a lot with a Moonkin. They get absolutely fucking dumpstered by melee from my experience. Like, when I play with Sam, all I know is this guy is just dead the whole game. Just stuck in fucking bear form. I don't think Boomkins are too tanky right now. Maybe I'm biased. I don't exactly understand this. I understand why this talent is nerfed. It's because they randomly just kind of baked it in, like, passively, which makes absolutely zero sense. Frenzied Regen for Feral is no longer nerfed. This is something that probably should have happened a while ago, but I still think Ferals are not going to be good enough. I think they're still missing something. They nerfed Restoration Mana Regen by a little bit more to kind of offset the fact that some of their spells are going to be cheaper. I think that this nerf is... I don't know how much bigger, but I think it's bigger than the mana cost reduction, if that makes sense. I think that this is going to end up hurting their mana more than the other changes. And then healing reduced by 5%. It's something. Resto Druids are still going to be the best healer, you know? They're not better than other healers by a 5% margin. That's tiny. You know what I mean? Preservation just got, you know, effectively a 10% healing increase. They're still dog shit. It's just how it works. Rigid Ice increases the amount of damage required to cancel by 20%. This got offset because they made it, you know, baseline in PvP. I have no idea what their 4-set is, but it's no longer nerfed. Windwalker Monk got 2-set, nerfed more. I have no idea what it is. Discipline got their 2-set, unnerfed. It's like 10% Panis damage, completely irrelevant. Eviscerate damage reduced by 10% in PvP combat. I don't know. I mean, I think that with the stam increase and the Evis damage nerf, there's a chance that rogues aren't killing people in stuns anymore as sub. But this isn't the issue with sub. Okay? Getting 100 0'd, okay, that is an issue. But the frequency and the immortality of sub is so much more frustrating. It's like, oh, I attacked him, he vanished. I attacked him again, he cloaked. I attacked him, he vanished. Well, guess what? Those 2 vanishes, reset his fucking cooldowns, boom, he cloaks again. Like, that's what's really frustrating about sub, like, how often they have their goes and whatever. But there is a chance that, in general, sub is just not good enough based on the fact that people have more HP. Well, actually, let's think about this for a second. So right now, healers already have this. Healers already have this. It's getting buffed to 20, but healers already have this. And sub could still 100 0 a healer. So yeah, sub is actually probably fine. Sub is actually probably fine. And that's like solo. They could solo healers. Who in God's green earth asked for this, bro? On a healer that gets absolutely dumped on by melee. Why the hell am I waking up to armor nerfs on my shaman? Like, how does this make any sense? Does it matter? Probably not. But why? You know, it just doesn't make any sense to me. I don't get it. I have absolutely no idea why. So Nightmare increased the amount of damage to cancel fear, and some stuff about Fury War that I don't care about. So it looks like they tried to offset mostly everything that scales with this, all fear and root effects. But number one, they forgot the priest one. So I personally feel like Priest Fear is going to be a literal stun. Priests have a talent that increased the threshold of their fear. They nerfed the Warlock one. They didn't nerf the Priest one. So I think Shadow Priests are literally going to fear you, and you're going to take a lot of damage in that fear before it breaks. It's going to be a bit of a stun. They didn't nerf this. So I don't know how much the threshold was with fear before this, but now it's going to be significantly better. They also didn't nerf Landslide on Evokers. These are the two that just kind of come off the top of my head. So Evokers have a talent that increases the threshold that you need by 200%. So like, Evokers, any of the spec could play this talent, and the threshold is going to be insane. It's going to be like 300% or something. Like, I don't know if you're actually going to play it and if it matters, but these roots are probably just straight up not going to break. This is a lot. This is going to be a lot of damage. Some of these changes they seem really, like, out of touch. The armor one, the generalization here, I don't know. Like, where are the other healers? You know what I mean? Like, okay, what about Holy Paladins? Like, what about Disc? What about Mistweaver? You know, why not toss Prez a little bit of love? Prez, like, I play Prez a lot and I do well on it, but it still is significantly worse. I understand maybe not buff our Shaman. I don't know. It just seems weird to me. I think there is a little bit like of a weird effect where it's like, okay, if we nerf our Druids by 5%, what changes for the, you know, the other healers? But I think the other healers are still too weak in comparison to Resto Druids, so even if Resto Druids are going to stay strong, the other healers need to get strong as well. Other than that, like, what else should have been buffed? I feel like there's a lot of classes that seem like they're a little underwhelming right now, but I kind of expected to see more. Maybe Enhancement Shaman getting, like, a little bit of survivability. Not exactly the notes I was hoping to see, mainly because I think nothing changes here. I'm actually happy. I think the one thing I'm happy to see is I do think that the DPS stam is a little bit lower, but what I will say about this is, like, changes like this are actually crazy on classes that have like increased stamina to begin with, and the first things that come to mind is like Outlaw Rogue, DK, and like Warlock. All of these classes already have increased stamina, so when they get like extra multipliers like this, they could become literal fucking tanks. So like I just don't like a generalization like this. And then the other thing that I'm happy to see is, or sorry, that I actually think has an impact is the ret changes. Like, Ret might actually be really good at dealing damage. I actually think Outlaw Rogue, Ret could be good. Maybe DK Ret to, like, dampen. DH Ret, Demo Ret. Things like that could end up feeling like they could be pretty good. Overall, I think I'm a little disappointed, but there was a couple good ones in here, I guess. I think this is just going to be the final patch we play before our tournament. There's no chance that we have a patch 2 days before our tournament, or like hot fixes, I guess, or changes or whatever. And I say that saying there's no chance, but it's literally happened before. But I would say it's unlikely. That can never be lonely. Be the fan that's